Ready?
We have like 5 minutes.
We have 5 more minutes to start?
We can goof off.
Okay. I'm telling you, if you keep walking around here, it bounces me up a little bit. So
Hey, hotshot. We're live?
Oh.
I thought we started at 5. 5?
Oh. All right.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name's CRob. I work for Red Hat Product Security.
My name is Lisa Bradley, and I work for NVIDIA.
We are here to talk to you today about, hey, you found a vulnerability. Now what do you do with it? Is anyone here in the room a security researcher?
That wants to admit to it.
Nice. Hey, you may have talked to us or our peers in the industry at some point. So roughly today we're going to talk about trying to understand what you found, what do you do with it once you found it, how do you tell people about it, and then making your dreams a reality with sharing your work with the world.
Okay, so the first thing you have to ask is, what are you looking at? Did you actually find something? Can you reproduce it? Are you on the latest version? Because the company could have already addressed it. Is the product that you're looking at in support? Is it a website issue or a product issue? So there are different teams that actually handle that within a company. So if you go to, I'm PCert. If you go to PCert with a website issue, I'll say, oh no, you got to talk to this person. I don't deal with the website issues.
Correct. That's a very common mistake that a lot of times you'll get that cross-routing, so it'll delay you in getting your research to the right people.
Right. Another. Whoa! We're having fun up here. Okay, we're good.
Anyway.
That must have been really loud for you. I'm sorry.
She's sorry. And really importantly, as you discover a problem, you need to understand what your end goal is. What's your why? Are you looking to turn something in and get a bug bounty? You're looking for money? Are you looking to have the amazing fame of the internet and Twitter laud you for your amazingness? Are you looking to help people? We have a lot of people, especially in open source, that are very altruistic. They're trying to actually make the community better. Are you looking to present at a conference like Derbycon and share your findings with the world and kind of earn yourself some either intellectual or academic prestige? Are you looking for a future employment opportunity? A lot of companies see security researchers, and they will see that as a potential future employee. If you have a good relationship and it works out and you interact well with each other, it might be a job for you someday. So you need to understand, as you're going through this process, you need to understand what you want to do. What's your end state?
And it could be more than one of these, obviously. So you need to try to balance that when you're working on it.
Absolutely.
What you want to do. So how do you involve the right people? How do you even know who to talk to? I hear that a lot. That's the biggest complaint I think that people hear. Most likely there's a security webpage that the company has, /security, /product security. A little Googling. Usually you could find what you need to do. There's also the hacker one and Bugcrowd and things like that. They have pages that will just help you direct to the company and the company's security.
There's organizations like FIRST, which is the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams. So organizations like Red Hat and NVIDIA and IBM and Intel, we all are part of this organization. You can go there and they'll have a list of contacts on FIRST website. Or you can use an organization like CertCC or JP Cert. This is a group of people that specialize in trying to coordinate getting the end users a fix. But again, that might not meet with your goals. If you're looking to make money, reporting to CertCC might not get you where you want to go.
Right. And one of the things you have to think about is if the issue you've discovered affects more than one company. That's another reason why sometimes CERT is more helpful, because they know how to go into more than one of the companies and coordinate it for you instead of you trying to balance that coordination, because I may want to have a different disclosure timeline than you would want. Well, you're open source, so I don't want you to have the same issue as me, because they'll come out before me.
Now, most modern organizations, vendors, participate in a practice called coordinated vendor disclosure. It's a set of rules that, if you come to me and we understand that your issue affects multiple companies or products, we're going to try to work behind the scenes to get those other vendors to participate in the solution. Most organizations will talk to the researcher. If you come to me and say, I have this issue, I'm going to tell you this also affects X, Y, and Z. Can we please include them? And normally it's a little bit of a negotiation, but it's always, companies like Red Hat always respect the researcher's wishes. If you do not want it shared, we won't. But this is, again, coordinated vulnerability disclosure is part of our philosophy. This is how we help protect the most amount of people under the shortest timelines.
Right. And one of the things is that when you work through this, it's about having a partnership. So the researcher or finder is working with the company and trying to have the best possible outcome. My goal, and hopefully your goal, is to protect as many customers as possible. So having that communication, open communication about how far along you are in the process, of how far the company's along in the process of investigating the issue, if we can, when we're going to fix it, when we're going to address it, so that, the goal is that you don't zero-day me. I mean, it's often a risk sometimes that a company takes having this open communication, but the goal is to just make sure the most customers are protected and that the fix is out there before anything gets publicly disclosed.
Before the bad guys find it and start using it.
Yes.
So next, you're working with a vendor. How do you actually commit that physical act? Now, a lot of times, you might have a reproducer, you might have some code, you want to share that. You just don't want to post that on Pastebin or shove that into Twitter. Those are considered poor taste. But you want to have some type of protected communication. You want to use a tool like almost all vendor P-certs use PGP. You can talk to us in a encrypted way. But there's other ways we can coordinate and kind of get data back and forth and collaborate on an issue.
A lot of the websites that the product teams have also will tell you what type of information they want. They may have a form for you to fill out so that you could submit it securely to them. But the idea is to make sure that you try to collect as much information as you can so that the company can understand what it is that you found and reproduce it themselves.
And also, we mentioned about trying to find your why. Why are you doing this? If you have a deadline in mind, I want to go present at Black Hat with this, or I'm presenting my doctoral dissertation at the end of May. You need to express that up front so everyone understands kind of what the rules of the road are, so to speak. And the vendor might say, I can't accommodate that timeline. Could we have more time? Or, that's not a problem. We definitely can do that. But as the bigger the issue gets, the more people you might have to include. So you might be asked when you approach somebody, they might ask you, can we please have more time? Because I also have to include SUSE and Canonical and Oracle. I have to include all these other people that have a say in how the solution gets put together.
This is
so if you get nothing else out of this talk, take a picture of this slide.
Yes.
This is the best way that you could report a vulnerability. The worst way you can report a vulnerability is to run a fuzzer and send someone 8,000 lines of error output and say, I found this, fix it. The best way is to clearly articulate who you are, what you found, what you think the impact is. Again, if you have a mitigation already, if you understand how to fix it, please supply that. That'll make things go quickly.
Definitely.
If you have a proof of concept,
awesome.
Provide that. Tell the person you're disclosing to exactly what you're testing on. I am working on Windows 3.11 on a 386 Dell machine. Just be as descriptive as possible, because that potentially could have hardware and software versions really matter. And as Lisa mentioned, it might already be fixed. And then again, if you have a timeline, I need to present this to my, defend my doctorate. You need to state that. And then, who wants to get credit? Who's going to get credit for this? If you're able to provide this information clearly and succinctly, it helps the vendor very quickly triage this and understand this is something important. This person has done their work. They're a good partner. We want to try to give this priority versus the 8,000-line report that's going to take months to sift through. Be clear and concise and explain what I found and what you think the impacts are.
Well, another thing you have to think about is that by time the company might find the right people and reproduce it, it could be some time from when you reported it. And you already could be on the 5th or 6th thing that you found by then. So you really don't want to have to come back and then you say, oh, geez, I didn't understand this step, or I didn't understand, or how did you get that? Because then there's more and more questions, and you might be like, I'm already way past that. And we will ask more questions if we can't reproduce it. So think about that. And when we talk about the credit, I think we sort of were light on that when we talked about the coordinated vulnerability disclosure. That's like another thing that's the outcome. You know, if you want to get credit, most of the companies do security bulletins or have an acknowledgement page or something like that, and they'll clearly acknowledge your name, and then you have, if fame is your thing, you get credit for that. They attach it usually to a CVE.
I'll send you stickers.
And some people do more than,
Correct.
Yeah, some send stickers, some send shirts, and some pay money.
Mm-hmm.
I do a nice little thank you in the bulletin.
Absolutely. And again, when you're engaged with any party and they have like a ticketing system, it's important to try to get that ticket ID or ask them for a bug number so that as you're communicating back and forth, because a lot of times researchers we work with will have 5 or 6 things they're exploring at the same time. So you can say, I'm talking about issue 2 versus issue 28. So you can be very clear in your communication back and forth. And what goes on behind the scenes, we are scrambling around like idiots. It's we are trying to understand what you just told us. And again, if you give us that in that concise format, it's easier for us to understand what you found and what we need to do to try to test and reproduce it. We're trying to determine the priority of the issue. Is this a big problem? Is it a little problem? Is it somewhere in between? What other products and versions are affected? Because a lot of vendors will have a fleet of products in the portfolio. If you find it in one place, there's a potential it's going to be in other spots. So from my perspective, you find something in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, I have to go look at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have about 15 different streams that I have to go check.
Yeah, and we also think about other companies that are affected too. So that's also going through in the back of our mind. If we have this problem, who else might have this problem?
Mm-hmm. Who's downstream? Who are the partners that need to participate in this?
Yeah. So I like the next part and the bottom part of the slide because this really goes through my head every time. It always seems that a researcher finds something like a week right before I'm about to release some, it already went through QA and all this stuff. I'm releasing something. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If we do a 3-month cycle then I can't get it out from 3 months and a week now from today, and they just gave me a 90-day disclosure deadline. Oh no, what do I do? Right? Typical, always. It always seems the case. So a lot of that, oh no, how do I get the resources together if I need to immediately put this out, if it's going to go live? Really panicking in the background. I panic. I'm always doing that. Mm-hmm. Like, So, and I'm trying to think what are the other ones that we have. Negotiation. That's sort of a lot of work. It's like, I'm like, okay, after I figure it out, after I get the right team to work on it, after we figure out the timelines and things like that, and I look and I say, oh no, they gave us this disclosure date. Can we meet the disclosure date? If we can't, we go back to the researcher and we say, hey, we just can't meet this. Can we, are they going to be, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they accept it. I hope they accept the new date. I hope they're okay with the new date.
And it's very rarely when you're unless you're talking to like a small open source project that's 3 or 4 people, very rarely is the person you're talking to the person that's going to write the fix. So there's often external people they have to coordinate with. So I have engineering teams around the globe, depending on what the package is. I need to go find the maintainer for that. I need to go find subject matter experts. So that takes time. So unfortunately, it's not always a one-to-one relationship. So just try to be patient, and we try to state up front what our constraints are. Then your final phase.
Final phase. So, do you decide to put a brand name on your... People say no, please, no. And we have an example with Badlock, Sadlock.
Oh, hot damn.
Oh.
I am so very excited. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness! Wait, I can't get mine open. You're gonna beat me.
It's delicious.
I'm making a mess. I didn't finish mine yet. You have to now talk
So
while I
what do you
finish.
want the public to know? So I will tell you, if you decide you want to brand your problem, if you want to brand your
I
problem.
really like it.
Said no one ever.
I do. It's yummy.
Great. Yeah, I'll get you another one. There was a team of researchers that found an issue, and they wanted to call it bad luck. And they thought they found the biggest, scariest problem ever. And when they released it and went public, the internet said, and then there was counter people that created sad luck. And they had a whole kind of counter marketing campaign because this group of researchers thought they had this huge, huge problem, and it really was kind of tiny. And so they had the internet actively attacking them, working against them, and they were selling T-shirts with sad luck on it. Actually, I have the icon here. I have a sticker right here. So you want to be careful. It's something you want to if you're going to consider it. Think through what your risks are and what the blowback might be.
Yeah, I think there's also a misconception about the blogging and the disclosure part on the researcher side. I actually don't mind if you are communicating about your issue that you found. I just want you to wait for me to have the fix out. And preferably, if you could wait 2 weeks after the fix is out so that my customers actually could get the fix and put it on their system. Because once I go and put it out there, then they need to go and, it's a chain reaction. And I could have another company that consumes something of mine, and then that company consumes something. So there's like this hierarchy of a lot of work. Maybe I shouldn't have had that work that I need to, that you need to do. So I think you have to think about that. Like, I'm okay with you sharing your proof of concept, exploit stuff. You should. Other people want to learn from it. If you could just say, yep, maybe a little blog, like, yep, I found it, and then 2 weeks later put the rest of your stuff in, even better.
And you need to decide, are you going to talk to the media? Does your problem affect multiple products? Have you effectively talked with everybody? Because potentially you might tell me, but you tell me I can't talk to anybody else. Well, what about the rest of open source? That they're going to get really angry at you. So you just need to kind of think through it and, again, understand what your end goal was. Am I trying to get a job? Did you conduct yourself very professionally? Did you have good rapport? Did you ultimately get the issue fixed? That could earn you accolades. Or if you do it poorly, if you go out and just post it on Twitter before anyone's ready, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
Right, and to think about that, if when you're doing the right coordinated vulnerability disclosure, you shouldn't be sort of teasing the issue that you found it. The whole point is to wait till the end when the company puts out their post about it that you then put your post to. Because if you start teasing it, someone else might find it, and then they might get that fame that you've been wanting to get.
So what if? What if you report something to me and I don't agree? That's not a problem. From my perspective, we don't say that, but I have seen examples where a vendor will say, that's a feature. You don't understand how that works. So you need to, again, plan through how you're going to react to that, how you're going to negotiate. What if you can't articulate the issue well enough and the issue can't be reproduced?
Or what if it's an as-is type of part where it's not in support? There's a lot of things that could happen where you may get discouraged, but as long as there's open communication with with both sides, I think you could sort of try to figure it out, right? Come to agreement. You don't want to burn your bridges here. Neither of us do.
Yeah, correct. And then, what happens if somebody else discovers your research? We don't exist in a vacuum. If chances are, if you found something, you're very smart. You're a beautiful, stable genius. But somebody else might have a similar idea and come at it from a different perspective and come to the same result. So you want to think through that. If somebody scoops you, that might potentially change your timelines.
Right. I would say if you're going to have something that you want to write up, you probably should prepare it sort of earlier on, so then you have it ready just in case. And then you could still be able to post it. I also think if you are going to write something, share it with that company. Let them look it over. Because you're trying to work as a team, as much as you might not think it. We're trying to work as a team. So if I know what you're going to write, I can be more prepared for how is the media going to pick up on this. I could work with my PR and things like that to make sure I'm prepared. And then I can make sure that what you're writing, if you accept my feedback, just to make sure it's valid, because I wouldn't want you to not have anything valid and then it burn the relationship at the end.
Well, and a lot of times, my security analysts will say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It'll engage in a dialogue. So potentially be prepared for that we may provide you feedback on what you're going to state that may inspire additional research down the road. So for our parting thoughts here, be patient. We're all in this together. Even though your goal may be rewards and promotions and your name on the internet, we're here to try to safeguard end users of this stuff. So we ultimately are trying to help make things more secure. So please be patient. Sometimes it might take a little longer than you might initially anticipate.
Right, and some organizations aren't as mature with their processes. So you actually might know better than them what they should be walking through, and you might have to be the one to say, okay, where are you? Are you assigning a CVE? Forcing that type of thing. And it's not that the company probably doesn't want to do it. They just might not know that they should be doing things like that.
Especially if you're looking in you're researching in an IoT space. Unfortunately, a lot of those companies that are making these devices, it's blue ocean for them. This is something they're new and they've never done it. They don't have the maturity that a traditional software or hardware vendor might. So you just need to think about that as you're approaching. Again, you may know more than that company. You may have more people that are researching this than the team has that actually supports it, depending if it's a small open source project. And again, always try to assume positive intent. We don't intentionally try to be jerks or test your patience, but again, we have a lot of constraints. We have our schedules planned out months, years in advance. So you're coming in and stating there's a problem. We have to filter that. We have to give that feedback to other people that make business decisions. So just try to be patient.
Well,
and again,
it could take a long time for the company to actually solve it. If it's a hardware type of issue, it could take significantly longer to to address.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a little bit of time. Does anybody have any questions?
Don't be shy.
The vendor. So,
So the question was who requests the CVE. So MITRE has a CNA program in what most companies, or at least the bigger ones, they get assigned a big clump of the CVEs, and then you have them. If a company is not one of those, they could go to MITRE and request it. But the companies should be the ones that are getting the CVEs, as long as there's no argument that they want to utilize that system, which most people do. If they don't want it, the question was, what if they don't want to assign a CVE? Then you yourself can go to MITRE and ask them for a CVE for the issue, and then MITRE will try their best usually to get a hold of that company and work with them to do it.
And then there's some, if you don't know, so for example, it's an open source project. There is the DWF project, the Distributed Weakness Filing, that kind of tries to represent all of open source. Ourselves, SUSE, we're CNAs, and we can offer CVEs on behalf of the open source.
Right.
CertCC is another great resource. You can talk to them and say, I would like to I'm trying to figure out how to report this and who's responsible, and they can help. And again, also help try to apply pressure to get the CVE issue.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's a good question. So we were talking about, the question was about, in essence, bug bounties, and if a company doesn't give any reward in that way. I have to tell you that's probably one of the most difficult decisions that a company makes when it comes to this, is do we have bug bounty or do we not? And I think companies often are reiterating and looking into that, looking at, BugCrowd and things like that, and HackerOne. One thing you could possibly think about is, and this is sort of a cheating way in a way, but what other companies consume that product line, and maybe those other companies have a bug bounty, and that could be how you get paid if money is your goal. I think it's also a change in our culture of what's going on. I think a lot more people are doing the bug bounties. I mean, especially with the Spectre Meltdown stuff, like they're high profit, and I think it's going to be more and more common, which is good for the researchers.
And if the vendor doesn't talk about the bug bounty program, do a little research, because especially, again, like with the large industry impacting stuff, there are a lot of people and they're spinning up special programs just for a particular line. They might not have a general bug bounty program, but they might have something for a specific area of research.
Some of the bug bounty programs offer private programs, so you might not even know that they have it. And if you have shown that you're a good resource to work with, you may get invited because of that into it in a side channel.
A good side channel.
Good side channel. Yeah, there was another question. Yes.
So the question was, what's the length of time from initial contact to issuing a CVE? It depends. Depends on the maturity of the organization you're reporting it to, how much staff they have, how well you put your vulnerability report together. If you give me just an error log, I have to go get 5 or 6 people to go validate that. But if you explain, in this line of code, I see this happening and it gives me this result, that's much better. We can get it more quickly. Technically, it takes 5 minutes.
It's more about validating that the issue,
we have to validate
that the issue is valid and that we have a plan for it. CVE is actually,
and there's not a duplicate.
It's really just a number until it becomes something, right? So I have a lot of researchers that ask for, you wrapping me up? Still, he's allowing me to finish it. So it's more about, and now I don't remember what I was talking about. There you go. Researchers. Yeah, some researchers will ask me, when can I have my CVE, what's my number, things like that. And I don't mind giving it to you ahead of time, but really it's just an ID. It's not going to do any good until I tell MITRE to activate it.
Thank you all. We're around for the rest of the weekend. If you see us, come grab us. We're glad to talk more.